Okay, guys, today I'm gonna talk about something, fairly recent acquisition that I've just picked up that I'm pretty excited about, pretty proud of. This is a handmade custom Barry Collins capo. Um, I had a situation, I've got an antique guitar. Some of you guys might have seen it on my channel. It was made by Carl Holtzoffel back in 1917, and it had a really has a really big neck on it. Big in every manner. It's wide, it's deep, it's huge. It's a huge neck. That guitar was made back before truss rods had been. Well, I don't know if they had been invented or not, but anyway, it doesn't have a truss rod, it didn't have a truss rod before it was restored, and the way they dealt with that back 100 years ago was to just make the necks freaking huge, to keep them as stable as possible. But the problem is, I could not find a capo that would fit that guitar. I'll show you. Here we have your typical. This is your Kaiser clamp style capo. Personally, I don't really like these kind of capos, for a couple of different reasons, which I'll get into in a minute. But just for sheer pragmatism and practicality, here's the neck in question. This is the antique Holtzoffel guitar, and I'll show you what happens when you try to put a Kaiser capo on here. It sort of fits, but it's pretty much maxed out in terms of depth, and in terms of width. It does not make it all the way across the fretboard. I mean, it sort of does, but it's not enough to where it's really going to be practical. That high E string is just not doing it. And if you try to move it up the neck, I mean, you really can't go past the fifth fret on this thing, because there's just not enough depth to this capo. So I had a problem. So I looked at some different options. The Elliots are really good. They make wonderful capos, in the similar design to the Collins, the U-shaped, screw type capos. I looked at the Elliots; they were great. They were really expensive, and then I heard through the grapevine that an old friend of mine, Barry Collins, who's a wonderful person and an amazing musician, one of the best bluegrass banjo players you'll ever want to hear, and who by trade is a machinist, a wonderfully talented machinist. I learned that he was custom making capos now. So I called up Barry, told him what I needed, and he said, "Good Lord, that's a big neck." And I said, "Yep, it sure is." And I think at that point that he said, "Well, this will be the biggest capo I've ever made." So I guess true enough. I'll take him at his word. But he made this capo for me. I gave him all the custom measurements that he needed, and he built this thing for me out of polished stainless steel. And I gotta tell you, this capo is just absolutely a work of art. I mean, if you can see the level of precision, the level of detail, the tolerances that he put in this thing, I mean, there's absolutely zero wiggle room in this capo at all. It is just every tolerance on it is tight as can be. Where this pin joins the U right here, there's just ever so slightly, just the perfect amount of friction to sort of hold it in there, and then you just loop this band on top like that to hold it in place. And the reason I like these screw type capos, and by the way, this screw right here, going through this threaded part, is absolutely, I mean, just completely, military spec, rock solid tolerances. I mean, they don't make sewing machines this good. I mean, this thing is absolutely beautiful. All hand done, all hand machined, hand polished, by Barry, one at a time. And by the way, the price is what he charges is extremely reasonable for what you get. Got a piece of cork here. He told me, you may need to put, at some point, you may need to put a drop of oil on this screw. Haven't needed to do that yet. May eventually need to do that, but not a big deal. Even so, I mean, this capo will last the rest of my life, I'm sure. But the reason I really like these screw type capos is that as opposed to like the Kaiser or the spring-loaded clamp style, um, you know, I'm kind of I'm kind of a Nazi about tuning, and with the Kaiser style here, you clamp it on, and you've got this big honking spring here, and as far as tension on the springs, you get what you get. I mean, it's you get a certain amount of tension on the strings, and from my experience, it tends to be too much, and it can pull the it can pull the guitar, it can pull the tuning sharp pretty quick, and I just don't. I hate not having the option or you know the ability to adjust how much tension goes on the strings. Well, with this style of capo, the Elliots and the Collins and the John Pierces and all these you know these kind that use this adjustable screw, you can dial in exactly how much tension you want on the strings, which is great. You know, to me, I dial it in to be firm enough to where you know I've got good sustain, good resonance. It feels like you know it's got a good firm bite on the guitar, but I'm not clamping it down to where I'm pulling the strings sharp and creating tuning issues. And even if I do get, you know, if you use a capo, you're going to get some minor tuning issues regardless. I don't care how good the capo is, but you know, get yourself a good tuner. And you know, when I put a capo on, I usually try to compensate. Usually, it's from my experience, it's usually like the G and the B strings that are going to get pulled a little bit sharp. And so, you know, I'll take a good tuner, and they could be anywhere from 3 to maybe 5 cents sharp. So I'll back those down a little bit and just adjust as necessary. I mean, with one of these, though, honestly, great for a quick fix if you're playing in a bar and you're playing a bunch of Jimmy Buffett songs and you need to keep jumping around, you know, from fret to fret. I totally understand that. And if you need just a quick change and you're not super worried about tuning and you're not super worried about adjustability and stuff like that, grab yourself a Kaiser capo. I mean, heck, what are they, $25, something like that, if that. You know, it's a pretty good deal for just a quick fix. But if you're looking for a little more precision, you know you want the ability to have that control over the string tension, and just you know quite frankly, I think you get better sustain, better tone out of this style of capo anyway. Look into these, and Barry charges a very reasonable amount. I'm not going to get into dollars. Let's just say it's considerably more than the Kaiser, considerably less than the Elliott. I highly recommend these capos. They're amazing. You know, I think probably the one detriment to you know this style of capo is that it's not a quick change. You know, it's going to take you probably 2 to 3 times as long to move it as if you were using the clamp style. But if time is not a huge factor and you're more worried about tone, you're more worried about precision with your tuning, I highly recommend these. I highly recommend you get in touch with Barry Collins. You can find him on Facebook. I'm not going to give out his phone number here on YouTube, but you can find him on Facebook by searching Barry Collins Capo. I think his Facebook is Barry Sheridan Collins. I think it's Sheridan, Sheridan. Barry, just Barry, Barry Sheridan Collins. And you can look him up, and I'm pretty sure he'll ship you a capo anywhere in the world. But really, some of the for my money, I mean, the best made capo in the world. Obviously, he puts a lot of time and heart and pride into his work. You know, and honestly, I wish if I already have a couple other good capos for my other guitars, but you know, I probably am considering saving up some money to get a couple more of these for my other instruments. But check Barry out, find him on Facebook, give him a shout. Super nice guy. Pick a tune if you're in Southwest Virginia. Find him, pick a tune with him. A great banjo player, just a super nice guy. And I can't recommend these things enough, guys. Give him a shot. Look into them. Check them out. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. Leave some comments below and let me know what you think. Take care.